it's a very solid machine.
Look at the little turbo, it's so little.
I'm glad I went with this option. If Kubota would just change that out, lifting capability is number one. That's why I went with this. Well, it's we've had this machine now. We're finally coming around to doing a review. Let me hop up here, see how many hours are on this thing. 470 hours. So I bought it just over a year ago. We've used it for everything. A lot of tree work, but I mean everything from storm work to dirt work to tree work, which is what I bought it for. I'm gonna give you the honest, down and dirty, what I love about it, what I don't love about it. There's nothing really that I hate. There is some things that I wish were different, but we'll just kind of touch on everything. I've used the Kubota tractor before and it did fine. And then whenever I got this, it just changed everything that we do, our speed and everything. So I'm gonna hop into it. This is the Kubota R430 review. Let's get started. We'll kind of start at the front of the machine, work our way back. The tipping capacity on this machine is right around 5,500 pounds. That's a lot. This bucket is actually pretty heavy. I think it's around 800 pounds, just the bucket. If I use the grapple, like the rock grapple or root grapple, it's a little lighter, so it kind of helps with lift capacity. I like this one for what we do because it is like when we're done at the end of the day, we can scoop up all the twigs, leaves, dirt. If we grind stumps, we can easily fill everything in, and a lot of times you're getting wedges and those last few little pieces of just cleanup on a job. And a lot of that smaller stuff would fall through on the other grapple, which I still have, but I like this one overall more. I am building the log grapple over here. That's gonna get done hopefully sooner than later. I just need to get around to actually working on it because I had my plasma cutter torch went out on me, so I had to wait for them to warranty that so I can continue cutting out the last few things. Anyway, back to the machine itself. Functions wise, it's pretty simple. Up, down, tilt, all that fun stuff. First thing that I did not like about this machine, and something I changed, this mount right here. So originally it came with just a steel pipe with threaded, I think I had a 90-degree angle on it, and some of these quick couplers. So this is how they were set up, and you can see how bad they're bent right there. Like they originally were straight all the way down, but not anymore. And they had no way of bleeding off the pressure. Like this one, I can press in and this head moves. Is just a quick mount off of SCL, actually, their mini skid steer. I drilled some holes in the side, mounted this up, and it works way better. Not only were you not able to bleed the other one off, it would also, the pipe would bend, because when you're like trying to get it to click in, it wouldn't want to cooperate, and it's just over time the pressure. We actually got to a point where we had to crack the fit and loose and get it on and like connect the coupler and then just twist it back on. It was a huge pain in the neck, and it was really messy a lot of times. So swapping that out, I've got to mount this up a little better. We actually did this like a few weeks ago, so I hadn't made it to that. But overall, that was the first thing, and so far I think the only thing that I didn't like. If Kubota would just change that out, I think that'd be a huge plus, like from the factory. And if you have one of these, if you're watching, and if you have one of these and you run into the same issue, I paid from Kubota, like I went to my dealer and I asked for that part. I can maybe try to look up the part number, put it in the description, but either way, it was like $400 or less for that module. Then I think I spent another 20 bucks on the adapters on the back to step it down to 1/2-inch hose or whatever that is. And then I got rid of the metal pipe that was there, or the hydraulic pipe. I got rid of that and ran that hose, and I think the extra hoses and fittings ran me another 200 bucks. So for under $1,000, you can upgrade it yourself. I talked to my dealer. I was like, hey, if other people are having the same issues, I was like, you can add that as an upgrade from the dealership, maybe help with the sales a little bit, because that was the one thing that I lose my religion over, was anytime we had to swap it out. I got to a point where I didn't want to swap out the forks, or to get forks on this machine or the other bucket, just because I didn't want to have to put the hydraulics back on. Now, stupid easy. What I love about this machine, construction, it's a very solid machine. It's hardly any plastic on it. Only plastic is your lights. Even this plastic here for your fenders, it's thick. It's at least 1/2 inch thick. I mean, you can see the profile on that. It's built very well. All of this is steel. I think this might be fiberglass or plastic, but everything else is steel for the most part. I love that there's no, like my cousin had a Bobcat L28. First off, it's a slightly different machine because lift capacity wise, they're made for slightly different things. The machine the L28 or other similar machines like the Avant, the Giant, a lot of those, they'll be a little lighter and have a tighter turn radius, but this one has a lot less plastic. The other one had a lot more plastic that was busting stuff up and breaking, like body panels would get broke on it. So with this one, the maintenance on it is stupid easy. You pop this up, you can get to everything. All your linkages for the controls, easy to get to. Your fuel filters, we're a little dusty right now. We're actually due for maintenance on it, but all your fuel filters, your air filter, everything is easy to get to. Even the way that the filter sits in there, even though it's side mounted, whenever you unscrew it, it's got like a little catch pan that it catches all the oil and it drains everything out into one drain point. I thought that was great because you don't have a big mess on it. The motor is a 50 horsepower, obviously Kubota diesel. So it does have regen, but it doesn't have DEF. And I mean, I don't know when it goes into regen. I've never seen it go into regen. Maybe it just happened when I'm not on it, but it is turbo.
Look at the little turbo. It's so little. It's a weird turbo.
But yeah, it amazes me. Maybe I shouldn't be so impressed by the ease of access, but if any of y'all deal with equipment, specifically Bobcat, you know what a pain it is to get to everything. I don't understand why you have to like make extra panels to cover up panels to, like, I don't know. That's a huge thing for me whenever I buy something, is how easy is it to maintain. I don't mind paying a little more to save time down the road, and this is something not good about me. Sometimes if I have to do maintenance on something and I know it's going to take too long, I just put it off, and then I put it off, and I put it off. It is not good for the machine, but with this, I know right now if we had everything, we can do this oil change on, not just oil change, let's just say full service hydraulic filters, fuel filters, oil filters, just everything on here in under 10 minutes. And that's letting everything drain. That's blowing out the air filters, getting everything cleaned out. So my tractor even took longer than that. Sounds redundant, but they made this super simple for maintenance. And this ain't the only one. I have the KX57 excavator. Same thing. Easy to get to everything. So huge plus to Kubota on that one. All your grease points and maintenance lines right here. Let's say you blew a hose. It's 4 bolts, and you pull that panel off. Stupid easy. I mean, you can use an impact, pull all that off. You have access to everything. Easy to swap everything out. This machine, this is kind of the downside, if you want to call it a downside. This machine weighs 8,000 pounds, maybe even a little more, depending on what kind of attachments you put on it. Most of your like your other articulating loaders, whether it's Bobcat or Avant or any of those, they come in at half the weight, if not less than half. Granted, you lose a lot of the lift capacity, but let's take the Avant, I believe it's the 860i, for instance. It's a bigger machine. It's very capable. It weighs 5,600 pounds and it picks up 4,000 pounds. So the ratio there it's a lot closer. It's a smaller machine, lighter machine, but it picks up almost its own weight. This is a big machine and it can't pick up its own weight, but it can pick up 5,000 pounds. Why that matters to me and why I haven't went with Avant, because that's the other machine that I would have got if it wasn't this. I don't have a crane currently, so I need all the lifting capacity I can get. This takes up the slack where I don't have a crane, I can't load up heavy stuff. And it doesn't seem like much, but having to make extra cuts. Let's say you got 3 or 4 20-foot sections. Well, this one will pick up a 10-foot section of 3-foot around log. If it couldn't pick that up, I'd have to make that much more cuts. And it takes time. Whenever you're trying to knock 2, 3, sometimes even 4 jobs out in a day, every second counts. So that's just one of the things. Is it a make it or break it kind of deal for me? No. I mean, what I love about another style machine, specifically the Avant, I'll talk about it because I actually got to demo one. What I like about it is the telescoping boom. This does not have that, but again, if you need it, like this dumps about the same height as a Avant when it's telescoped out. So are you losing stuff? No, not really. However, with the Avant, it's a tighter package all the way around. I can get turf tires for this, and I think eventually I will. I'm just gonna wear these out. The other thing that I prefer about the Avant is the joystick. So here I've got, this is your boom up, down, left, swivel up, down. This is your auxiliary functions. What I like about a lot of those other ones, just talk about the 8, I think we demoed the 728. Anyway, one of those, it's a joystick and it's got buttons on it. So it does everything from one position. Now you get used to this, we hardly even notice that you gotta move your hand, but it is nice to be able to just focus on one hand, use your thumb. I do like that I can get in from either side on this. It's not, you're not limited to just one point of entry. But again, those are, when you're buying a machine, think about what you need. Do you need access? Like this one is 5 foot wide. Most of those other machines are 3 or 4 foot wide. So what kind of neighborhoods are you dealing with? If you're in really tight residential areas, you probably want the tighter machine. Basically, to kind of boil it down, this thing picks up what a skid steer will, or at least my brother's got a SVL 65. So it's not a mini skid steer, but it's not the 95 either. I think his lift capacity is around 6,000 pounds. So to have the lift capacity of that, but not tear up grass the way that one does, is a huge. That's why I went with this. Maybe should have started out with that, but it does not tear up grass. I mean, unless it freshly rained and it's super soupy, you can just about drive over. Put it this way, we worked in Augusta on a golf course after the storm, and we were able to get in and out. Granted, we also use ground protection mats, but it's one of the few things. See, covered majority of the things on this. We actually have the ability to take this counterweight off and put a backhoe on here. I don't need it, but it's a cool option to have. Let's see, what am I missing here? Is there anything else I need to?
Let's talk about price point.
Let's talk about buttered sausage.
That's a good point. I paid just over 60 grand for this. I think I got like 1% financing, so it's closer to 70 by the time it's all paid for. 70 grand is kind of a lot. I mean, it's about the price of a skid steer, which is why I went with this. I can get a skid steer. I can rent one at any given point. I can't rent one of these just at the drop of a hat. The smaller machines, Bobcat, Giant, Avant, whatever, they run in around the $40,000 to $50,000 price range. So smaller machine, but it's a little bit cheaper. I'm gonna talk about the
Buttered sausage.
I'm gonna talk about the Avant 860 because it is the closest comparison, I guess, that you can get. I believe Rion Rounds uses one of those. Might be wrong. I know he's got an Avant, but I don't know if that's the right size. I priced them out the other day, just goofing. Toyed with the idea of trading this in. It's a nice machine. I would love to have one. However, they had a 2022 with like, I think 400 hours, maybe even more, but it was in the high 70s. So let's say $80,000 on a used machine. That's a lot. I think new, depending on because you can get them with AC. It was the same thing with this. You can get the enclosed cab and all, but just a open cab. I think with the 860i, you're looking at around, I think 120 to 130. So that's a lot. Don't get me wrong, you chase enough storms and you got to have enough write-offs. It's nice to get it. But for me, where I'm at right now, I'm glad I went with this option because I do have, for me, it's lifting capability is number one. Two is not tearing up grass. That's why I used a tractor for so long. I didn't want to get I could have honestly got a skid steer for the same price that I got my first tractor, but I want to be a little more turf friendly. Something that I love about this machine, and I think there's a few others out there, I've never met someone who's in between, like, well, I could go with either. They either love the fixed articulation, which is just swings left to right, or there's other machines. I know Giant does it. I don't remember how the Avant is, but Giant oscillates too. So if you're on uneven terrain, it'll pivot, so you're always having contact on the ground. Where that matters, with the Bobcat specifically, talking with my cousin who ran one for I think 2 or 3 years, he loved almost everything about it, but there was sometimes that he would get aggravated because it was stiff, and let's say he had to go up on a curb. Well, one side would go up, he didn't have the limited slip differential. This one does. Every wheel has its own motor, so it's always turning all wheels, which is super nice. We've almost never got it stuck. Actually, I don't think we've ever got it stuck, and there is some sketchy footage. I think we should have some footage from whenever we're working in Helene in Augusta. There's one job that we actually volunteered for to help an older lady out, and we were going down like 45-degree slopes, carrying 20 to 25-foot logs, like pine logs, up this embankment. And I mean, it looked like you shouldn't be able to do it. It felt like it in it. I was like, man, this thing's about to start skipping at any given point. But it just climbs. It never stops, especially you put it in turtle mode, and it just climbs. Funny thing is, once I got a little more comfortable, I had it in rabbit mode, and it was still going just the same, right on up. So it's just, that part amazed me. I actually had one of the guys that was there on a skid steer. He was like, man, that machine's impressive, because you don't see a lot of these in the tree. In the tree industry, you have skid steers. I'd say that takes up for about half of the forwarding equipment. So you either got skid steers, you got mini skids. I think they take up for 25%. I see a lot of those around here anyway. Then you see your typical articulating loaders. They probably account for another 24%. But something this size, like Kubota made this not for tree work. I'm using it for tree work. That's, you know, I made it work. But this is meant to move a lot of material. I've got, I think it's like a 1.5 yard bucket that I put on this, and we load up mulch with it. That dump trailer, I can load it in under 10 minutes. I think, right? About 10 minutes or less, depending on how big the pile is that I'm scooping it off of. But that's a 15-yard trailer. Or is it 20? I don't know. It's a 16-foot dump trailer with 4-foot walls. Y'all can do the math. But we fill it up in about 10 minutes. So with the other bucket that I used to use, it'd take me closer to 30 minutes to fill everything up. Now, it was a lot smaller bucket. It was a tractor bucket. The bucket that I use on this, I think it's a 6-foot skid steer bucket. So it really is all it is. It's just a bigger, deeper. Actually, no, that bucket is 83 inches. It's bigger than 6 foot. Yeah, this is 6 foot.
Yeah.
The other one is, I want to say the other one's like pushing 8, because it's, when we put it on our deck over, it almost goes wall to wall. So I think it's 83 inches, something like that. But it does the thing. One thing I forgot to mention that kind of sucks is when you boom this thing up and go to dump that bucket down, it does not go to, so like right here with the skid steer and the tractor, I was able to get this angle to point straight down. So you can come in, let's say this is your pile of logs, you can come in, plant it, roll over the top and grab it. This one, you come in, you can have it here, but it doesn't quite reach all the way over. So let's say you got a bunch of logs, you can probably grab this, but you're gonna have 1 or 2 left out. So I wish that I could, because you don't always have the room to just push and pile it all up. I wish I could go over the top, grab, and go. But again, this machine is not meant for that. It's meant to literally just scoop dirt, material, rock, gravel, mulch, whatever, and dump it. It's called a loader for a reason. But other than the angle of the dangle of this attachment and the attachment points here, it's the only 2 gripes that I got. So that just about touches all the key points. One thing that I did forget to point out is you have 2 brake pedals, but they're connected. So you have your gas there, or your throttle. You can throttle it up. Because it is a hydrostatic transmission, basically when you're on it, and you're driving around and you want to rev it up to lift the bucket up, you can press in on the brake. All that does is bypass your drive motors. And here, I'm gonna go ahead and actually demonstrate moving. This is what I love about it. I can have it forward or reverse. So it's going forward. It doesn't hurt it. You can be, all it does is just swap the valve. So it's got a electronic parking brake, will not move. Fuel economy is pretty good on it. We typically just, once a week and a half. If we got a busy schedule and this thing's running a lot, we fill it up maybe once a week. I think it's a 12 to 15 gallon tank. But I think that just about covers it. This has been my review, like my opinion on it. Kubota didn't sponsor me, doesn't sponsor me yet, please. No, but this is just an honest review of what I love about it, why I would buy this machine, and if Kubota happened to watch, what they could add. I think what could make this machine sell more is having all of this, and maybe I just didn't do enough research. Maybe they do have an option to where it's all one, but I didn't see it. But if this could be swapped to one joystick and add electronics to where, like the log grapple, it has the grab function and the twist function. So it'd be nice to be able to hook all that up, because I'm actually doing that kind of aftermarket. We'll touch on that later. But that's really the only minor thing that I would change. So overall, Kubota R430, good machine. I think Kubota makes a good machine just all around, especially considering the fact that they're kind of late to the skid steer game. Like, they've been around for a while, but there's a reason when people see skid steers, they call them Bobcats, even if they're not Bobcats. But I don't understand why. I think this is a better product. Yeah, hopefully this helped. If you're thinking about starting a tree business, look into this. Maybe you're a year or two in and you need to upgrade some equipment. This is worth looking into. Maybe even your local dealership can have one. You can sample, try, rent. Ours didn't have a rental. But appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Like, comment, please subscribe. Appreciate it. See you in the next video.